First item is approval of the minutes. We have the minutes of the May 11, 2017 regular meeting. So, does anyone have any questions, any clarification, changes?
That was good. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second that motion.
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Abstain.
Motion passes. Chairperson's report, I haven't done any to report. Comments from board members, does anyone have any comments?
Yeah, I just want to publicly recognize and congratulate Mr. Smith on his job that will be starting in the fall. If you'd like to share that with everyone.
Yeah, so I got hired as an intern teacher with the Robles School District. I don't know what grade yet or even what school, but I have a full-time job next year. So
That's great.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
If you need any elementary stuff, let me know. I'm a multiple subject guy myself.
Okay.
And I've been giving it away because I've been in high school. So that's what I love about this.
Yeah, his mom's a teacher.
Oh,
Well, you can never have enough.
All right, anybody else have any?
Went by and seen the swim team. Man, just an A1, an A1 event. Again, I went by their meet. Man, I'll tell you, I was involved with it for a while, but just to see the improvements and see them taking the next step. They've got their retirement system and all that. And, I saw Travis, he's out there really working hard with those kids. So hats off. Looks good.
He does look really good.
Well.
I guess in the last swim meet, he cut down to gonna have 18 disqualified DQs.
Yeah.
And normally, in a normal year, like a normal meet, they would have 40 plus. So you can just tell from the coaching right there that the swimming's getting much better and we're able to compete at a much higher level than we were before.
So,
Yeah.
just pat on the back there, look good, look real good, real good.
All right, any more comments? All right, reports from standing committees. And,
We
that's on the
We
agenda.
got two things for budget, finance, and audit.
All right, thank you. Administrators report. Larry, is there anything you'd like to expand on or comment?
Nothing,
All right. Scott?
unless there's any questions.
Yeah.
I just want to say Doug did a great job on fixing that sign.
That was pretty amazing.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
yeah. Oh, looking at the.
And that wasn't just stripping the graffiti, the graffiti came out, he repainted the whole.
Right, no, he did a great job.
I was impressed, so I thought it was worth recognizing and sharing with the board.
Right.
All right, Mark.
I don't really have too much to add. I do want to acknowledge at least our recreation supervisor, Marvin. So I've been on paternity leave for the last 2 weeks. And Marvin, as we all know, this is when summer starts. And he has to take on so much this week. And he's tackled every challenge that's thrown at him. All the programs are running phenomenally. We talk periodically, and he doesn't even seem like he's at all concerned about anything that's going on. He's done a tremendous job of balancing everything and making sure that summer has run smooth. I stopped by swim lessons tonight because we've been selling out of classes. We have a great waiting list. And you can see how many kids are in the pool and how great our instructors are doing. I'm just so pleased with how summer started for us that it's really encouraging that going forward for us this summer that we're going to have a great program.
So Mark, if I understand you correctly, you and Dawn, Marcus took care of it. It's going very smoothly. Can we make amendment to the budget?
I was thinking that, but I
Go ahead.
Some will change very quickly.
Yeah. So with that, I just want to give acknowledgement to Mark. He's done an awesome job.
Harry, do you have anything? Anyone have any questions of staff?
I do have one quick question. So we have the new policy and procedure manual draft. So just a question, so did we change the name of our body here? We're the Board of Directors? Just letting you know it's misspelled.
And you know, I haven't even done those pages, I just took it out.
That's how it's been? Great. I mean, I walked in, the first thing, it's like, really? Man, Terry's trying to...
It's been like that since I've taken over.
Alan, I would guess, just looking at the policy manual, there are well in excess of 50 words that are misspelled or things
Oh, no, I
that are
know
missing.
that. But, you know, it's sitting right here, and it's like, it jumped right out
I'll
at
make
me.
it a copy for you.
Okay. I thought you maybe did that to see if I was paying attention.
Oh, I wish I did. God, I wish I did.
Is there anything else? All right, correspondence, we don't have any. Comments and reports from citizens and organizations. Sorry, everyone who was here tonight. Unfinished business, none. New business, I need letter A, resolution 551, approval of the 2017-18 fiscal year preliminary budget. So, Alan, what is your?
I think we're on, man.
I think we're on, but you're talking.
I know, that's it. So hopefully everybody got a chance to review your board packet in advance. I mean, I don't want to go through this line item by line item unless someone's got questions. I do want to highlight just a couple things. So in my opinion, staff came up with a brilliant idea to create a new position. What do we end up calling it now?
Facility maintenance supervisor.
Facility maintenance, yeah.
Okay. And Larry, do you want to explain what that position's going to do? Just highlight. Sure. And the background, because like I said, when you brought this, it's like, wow, this is like awesome.
Sure. Our maintenance crew was very talented at doing the traditional maintenance of keeping parks clean, mowed, and restrooms maintained, and facilities maintained. One thing that we're lacking badly is someone who has skills in basic carpentry, plumbing, electrical, those types of things. As you know, all our facilities are quite old. This is one of our newest, this may be our newest facility here, and it's 30 plus years old. So we have a lot of deferred maintenance, and we have, since my time here, we have had to go out quite often when things break, simple things, toilets break, get clogged, electrical issues, ballasts go out, those types of things. And so we spend a lot of money just fixing and repairing, things that fall apart and break. But we also have the deferred maintenance, things like our roofs and things that, that if you don't stay on top of them, they're going to cost you a lot of money. And you don't want to get in a position of waiting until things break to fix them. You want to stay ahead of the game. Your HVAC units, you want to replace those before they stop working. So when we had a vacancy, when one of our maintenance workers retired a few months ago, Scott and I spent a lot of time talking about how can, just let me go back a second. I believe that anytime you have a vacancy, you should always take a look at it and review it again to make sure that that's what you need. Because sometimes things change. And having gone through that, Scott and I brought in our park foreman and our park supervisors as on several occasions and spent quite a bit of time talking to them. And we were getting the same feedback that those were things that we were lacking. Just, $300 and something to have somebody come out here and unclog a toilet. Somebody come out and, a window that got graffiti, that it was plexiglass and had to be replaced. So we looked at, if we can find somebody that can do a lot of that type of work and start addressing some of deferred maintenance, while the position is going to cost us approximately $20,000 more a year, including benefits, it's likely to save us 2 to 3 times that amount of money because that's what we're paying to have other people do it. That in a nutshell is why we are looking to fill the position. I'll tell you what I told Pat and I told Alan, and that is, if we don't find the right person, we're not just going to hire somebody and keep our fingers crossed. Because you got to have someone that meets that skill set. We will be advertising in the California Parks and Recreation Society. We'll touch base with all the special districts in the Sacramento area. We'll also put an ad in the Sacramento Bee. We'd love to find that right person that can come here and be part of our team. And again, well, there's initial upfront costs. I think in the short term, you're going to see quite a bit of savings in our budget, because if we can do a lot of the work here ourselves, then we don't have to pay someone from the outside to come and do it. This is very typical of a small agency. You just don't have the ability to have people with those specialty skills.
Okay, thanks. Just a couple other things I wanted to highlight is on like fixed asset purchases. So a couple of things: community center kitchen lobby remodel next door. If anybody's ever had an event or worked at an event there, that kitchen, a little bit outdated, it needs some upgrading. And then the Streets Park building roof replacement parking lot. That's where we applied for the hotel tax fund grant. Oh yeah, by the way, on that, can you send an email to all of us on when the board's going to decide that? That's the day the board's going to interview everybody. So if you haven't gotten notified yet, you've got to go down and make a presentation.
I actually got an email from the county that said, but they told me a little bit differently. What they said was that was going to be the day the board was going to address the grants.
Correct.
And they said, you may be contacted by county board of supervisors. They may have questions of you prior to the meeting, but I'll be happy to go down there.
There was actually a board agenda on Tuesday.
And because they brought it up?
Yeah, there was, and I had number 45 and 46, because I had a board agenda before that, after that, and so I sat through the whole thing. And so there was a lot of discussion, and originally it was only going to be a committee of a couple board members and then staff, etc. Well, this little 5-minute discussion went to 20 minutes, and they decided it's going to be a board meeting now. But they're only going to decide on who they're going to recommend subsequent to the full board, because one board member said, I'm not going to attend that, so that's why they're doing it that way.
Okay, I'd be happy to go.
But if you hadn't heard, there was 149 applications, I believe there was. So this is going to be literally about an 8 or 10 hour day for those folks to go through every single one of these.
Well, I got an earlier email from the county that said, they didn't give us a number, but they said there was a small number that were being forwarded to the county board of supervisors. So, or did they already made their, because they said they made their first cut.
149 are going forward. Or it's 139, 149, right? So,
Well, it would have felt a lot better if you told me it was only a dozen.
well, I mean, there's $1 million up.
Right.
Okay. But like I'm saying, if you actually, I'd suggest to log in and watch that board item from Tuesday, because they were all over the place, sorry board, that they were saying some of it should be set aside for a large grant, like $200,000 or $250,000, and then set aside other monies for smaller grants so more people can get it. And they have it broken down into 9 categories. Parks and Rec is one of those, economic development, I don't remember them all now. And there was a recommendation to choose one from every category, and then that kind of got thrown out the window that no, they probably will not be doing that now. And I mean, literally it was all over the place. And then the other thing is, one of the board members said that they would want a cut of that original $1 million to go back to each board member for them to decide what to do. I don't know. So like I said, if you have time, it's probably about a 20 or 30 minute discussion. I think it was timed for 10:30 or something like that on the agenda. So it was a time matter on the
And
agenda.
that was Tuesday's
It
agenda?
was Tuesday's agenda. I'm gonna say it was like number 45, 46, something like that. So, I'm sorry, I digress. So back to fixed assets, then the other thing is to buy a riding lawnmower and to get a whole new stock of community center chairs for next door. And other than that, hopefully everybody got a chance to review it. And if anybody has any questions, Pat will answer them all for you. We'll defer to me and then I'll defer to Pat. So while everyone's thinking, I'm going to make a motion to pass resolution 551, the adoption of the preliminary budget for 2017-18 in the total amount of $1,892,390.
I'll second it. Did you want to add anything?
I would just like to say that we just got, I signed that for the check today or yesterday, I can't remember. But we got a big boost and we got some more revenue that came in, that a little bit more than we anticipated. And we anticipate the carryover funds, as usual, to probably be a lot more than we thought. And that stuff will continue to change a little bit as we, go through the next 2 months when we get the final in August.
So are you going to share with us this extra money that came in?
No, it's just, I think it's just on our recreation program, so.
Oh, okay.
Just in the last month, we picked up more revenue and.
Oh, wait a minute, you weren't here, so.
That's right.
Help set it up,
Alan, under Marvin's watch. But also too, Terry correctly, we had more in our property taxes and.
Just in the little area, we have another 10,000 in the other property taxes.
Oh, nice.
So that's, in my limited experience here, that's what's happened in the last 3 years.
Anyone else have any questions or further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes.
I would like to thank staff for them putting all this together and answering all the questions we have when they come in.
Thank you, Alan.
Sure.
Next item, 10B, request for proposals, professional auditing services. Alan, this was yours.
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So if anybody's interested, I actually brought the packet with all the proposals we got. And I do want to highlight that the one we are recommending is definitely not the cheapest by far, but after, how lengthy is the discussion? Yeah, we talked for about almost an hour. We finally came to the conclusion that we were going to recommend Clifton, Larson, and Allen. And the other thing is, I don't know if we can, okay, never mind, I can't do that, because the agenda says a 3-year contract. We had talked about the next time we do this to maybe ask for a 3-year contract with a potential extension, optional extension of 2 years if the district so desires at that point. But since it's worded that, it was already kind of, we didn't present it that way, so I don't want to change it now. So does anybody have any questions?
Just wondered, there was something key that said, hey, we want to go with these folks, just out of more understanding and questioning, if I may.
No, that's fine. It's the size of the firm. It's a little larger firm. It's the experience they have. We've had Larry Bain off and on for a long time, and I'm one in a lot of folks that in the auditing field, you need to change auditors because auditors will tend to look at the same thing all the time. They come in and you have new auditors coming in, they'll look at things a little differently. Terry's gonna probably have a heart attack because of this, but they'll ask her different things she's never been asked before. So it's just a matter of, switching things up a little bit. And the reason it's 3 years, because most audits, the first year, they're gonna lose money, because they have to learn the system, they have to document everything, and then in subsequent years, they just update if there's any minor changes. So that part of it, that's why it's usually minimum of 3 years, because if you do a 1 year, you won't get anybody to bid on it. So, and
Makes sense.
the AICPA kind of recommends that you change about every 5 to 7 years. But the way they get around this, like for example, I own stock in a Dow 30 Industrial that I have owned for 30 years. Diane probably knows who I'm talking about. They've had the same audit for every single time, every year I've owned stock. The way they get through that is they change partners, okay? The person that's in charge of the audit, that is, you know, really the bread and butter of the audit. The problem with that is a lot of firms they have firm policy on the way things do it. So even though you're changing the partner, which I don't personally agree with, that's how they do it. And the AICPA is fine with that. So.
Thank you.
I have a question regarding on this firm. So, what is about the average size of the special district that they've audited and what jurisdiction did they perform the audits in? So is that in Placer County, Elmore County?
They have done.
Placer, Alpine, Amador, Butte. They've done the city of Henderson, cities in Alturas, Auburn, El Grove, Berkeley, Seaside.
Okay.
They have quite a few places that they've done.
Diane, they were very diversified between small counties, smaller cities,
Okay.
and also small special districts. So they seem to have kind of a across-the-board
Okay.
experience.
Good mix. Thank you.
So again, when we looked at all these, we received 5. 4 of them were all in the general kind of price area. There was one that was, I don't want to say quite a bit higher, but it was definitely a little bit higher. So that one we kind of, it's a little bit over. So that's why we ended up going through and talked the pros and cons of all these, and that's who we're recommending. And I'll go ahead and make a motion to enter into a 3-year contract for auditing service for the CPA firm of Clifton, Larson, and Allen.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And I'll reach out to the firm tomorrow to let them know.
Okay.
Thank you. Item 10C, board meeting name change recommendations. So did this go to personnel policies and procedures, or?
No, all right, I contact you on that.
Yeah, I didn't know if we got that was like, what, a month ago, so, yeah. So, do you want to?
Sure. You know, I think off and on since I've been here, there's been a little bit of joking about how complicated sometimes the names are for these committees, and you know, I think there's been some discussion every once in a while about finding a way to abbreviate the names. I think the one that's the tongue twister is the personnel and personnel policy committee. So I had I think it was at the last board meeting, we had a brief discussion about, you know, coming back with some name changes, and I contacted Diane. You know, typically we go through the committee process on this. The problem with it is each one of these affects a different committee, and so, and it did seem rather simple, although when I reread my staff report, I think I complicated it a little bit. But basically is to shorten the names, and in a couple cases, take a little bit closer look at the objective of the committee and the role of the committee, and that's what we've done. What we'll do is, whenever the board decides what they want to do, we'll go ahead and make sure this is cleaned up and looks very similar to what's in the policy manual now. I do want to point out, though, that one thing is that we did it tonight, and we referred to the Budget, Finance, and Audit Committee, yet in the policy manual, it's called the Budget and Finance Committee. So somewhere along the line,
And I was gonna address that, because we changed that, because I was the one that instituted changing that, adding audit. The reason being is, and that's what I was gonna talk about it now, because a lot of standards in accounting say that the entity should have an audit committee, and we get a separate audit committee, and we had talked about this when we added audit to budget and finance. So we, at the time, agreed to just say, okay, budget, finance, and audit. So you're being within standards, and you have an audit committee, because again, that's something that's highly recommended of local governments, is to have an audit committee. So that's one I would rather not see changed, just for that reason. That way anybody can come in and say, yeah, we have an audit committee, it's
You
part.
remember how long ago that was when, unfortunately, it didn't get put into the
Yeah, I know.
policy.
I would say probably at least a dozen years ago or more.
Yeah, it was at least.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because when the whole thing about after Enron and all this kind of stuff, it kind of filtered down through the local governments. And at that point, it was recommended that local governments have an audit committee. So we brought up, we don't want a separate committee. We didn't think we needed a separate committee just for audit. So that's why we made it budget, finance, and audit.
So if there's an agreement with that, for that one, we'll just leave alone?
I would rather personally leave that one alone.
Okay. And
If
we'll leave,
everyone else is fine with
and
it.
we'll leave the support language as it was before as well.
Right.
And the Facilities Acquisition and Development Committee, just trying to shorten it up, I put Facilities Development Committee with acquisition. Acquisition is probably the smallest piece.
Of what?
We don't acquire property rarely, very rarely.
It's usually donated to us, or
So I just would put it as a task of that committee would be when, if acquisition came up, that committee would address that. The other one, which was the Personnel and Personnel Policies Committee, is just called the Personnel Policy Committee. Unless someone has a better name for it. And the other one, 4070.5, Program and Community Relations. When I read what it really does, it really does little to community relations. I think when it comes to community relations, the entire board and staff are responsible for addressing those types of
yeah,
things.
it's pretty much
But
staff.
we really didn't call out program fees and charges, because it does address it a little bit in there, what their task is. And I just thought that would be good to kind of, since the fee, you could argue that belongs in the finance committee, the budget, finance, and audit committee, except for the fact is you're tying in the fee to the program itself. So I think you're spending your focus on the program, and the fee is a byproduct of that. But again, I'm open to, this is wide open. So the board can choose to do anything or nothing or something.
Well, I'm good with the changes and then leaving the budget, finance, and audit committee as is, and changing the other ones.
I'm sorry, could I point out one more thing too, under the 4070.6 function? This one just kind of caught my eye, and I just, part of my job is to make sure, I do my best to make sure that the board doesn't find themselves in murky water sometimes. And one of the criteria was that basically the board could designate a committee to take action. In reality, only the majority of the board can take action. So I thought that might be a good idea to delete that, because if you task a committee with making a decision, then essentially 2 out of 5 are making the decision, not 3 or greater are making the decision. So I just wanted to pull that one out.
Well, yeah, I know we can have ad hoc committees that are established for, specific single purpose things.
Right, but this one
Yeah,
here
yeah.
is either.
Yeah, you can't make a
Refer to
decision,
committee.
and it still have to come back to the board.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do is is if this is the direction the board wants to go, is come back at the next meeting with a clean copy and lay it out, so you don't, I take all the new stuff out and adjust it. Just give it to you the way you would see it in the policy manual. It's hard to do that knowing we have to talk a little bit about each one. But again, we're, I pledge to the board whatever you'd like to do.
So the only question I have, okay, so the new suggestion is personnel policy committee. So what committee's in charge of the district policies, if we call it personnel policy?
Or do we just call it policy and procedure committee?
Or we can call it personnel and policy committee. I mean, because that was kind of my contention. It's like, well, what's personnel policy? Okay, so who's in charge of reviewing the policy to make sure that they're up to date or whatever? Staff makes recommendations. It usually goes to a committee. What committee's in charge of that? It's usually that one, right?
Correct.
So does that make sense to maybe, I don't know, personnel and policy committee? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, this is,
I know it's semantics.
yeah, to put it at a easy to understand level, this is all internal stuff for you folks to, I mean, no one out in the public really looks at these committees and the names we call them, so it's whatever you're comfortable with. Some of these I just shortened up, and I thought there's probably better, names out there, but I figured they would filter out at the board meeting. But I think that would be a good one, Alan, is focus personnel and policies committee.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I think a couple of us are still planning to go to the CSDA conference. There's workshops on your board policies too. So Diane's gonna come back with all these wonderful ideas as the chair and wants to change everything anyway. So,
I'll be there too.
Yeah, I'm like, you're gonna sit back there and be quiet like a church mouse.
always like I was.
So if I could ask the chair, if we defer on voting on adopting these until I come back in July with a clean copy, because I really was trying to elicit some discussion tonight and find out what your satisfaction level is on these.
No, that'd be my comments.
No, I'm good with, making the recommended changes and putting it back.
Okay.
The next one. But does anyone else have any recommendations or questions, suggestions?
Well, when you see it next month, you still have the ability to make changes
Right, yeah.
at the same time.
Yeah.
But we'll clean it up and make it look like this, what you would normally see in the policy manual. And I'll be looking at, we'll change the personnel, make it personnel and policies committee, and we'll go back to the budget, finance and audit committee.
All right, thank you. Okay, item 10B, district park signage. So Larry, is this another one you want to talk a little bit more about?
I'm going to turn this over to Scott. This is his baby here.
Thanks, Larry. So if you recall, about 6 months ago, staff approached the board, the homeless situation at many of our parks, but primarily Freedom Park, had kind of reached its apex of disruption and damage to park facilities. And at that meeting, the board approved some short-term measures that focused on improved park security. And we entered into a new agreement with Paladin Security where nighttime sweeps became routine. We also limited hours and access to the park bathrooms at Freedom and installed a portable to serve as a backup when the bathrooms are closed. From all indications, those two things have helped immeasurably. Homeless camping in the parks has been cut way back, where you still see quite a bit of vandalism on the bathrooms. It's not near to the level it was back in December and the run up to that time frame. We talked briefly at that time about improving park signage. As I indicated in my report, we have park signage now. It's very dated. It's very small. Literally, it's 8 by 11. And for some reason, in most parks, it was mounted several feet in the air. So you'll go in and you would have to crane your neck and look up to see a
piece of paper sized sign that was very, very difficult to read. So we wanted to modernize the signage, make it bigger. The draft you have in front of you will be 24 by 36 inches, so 2 feet by 3 feet. It'll be a bright white with green lettering to match some other signs we put up recently. And then on the wording, really the wording we had before wasn't bad. We just tried to make it a little more concise and tighten it up, make it a little bit easier to read. The park signs will serve as a passive reminder to our park patrons of what is and isn't allowed. But a very, very important aspect of having these signs with county ordinances to back them up is it now allows county law enforcement to enforce these ordinances. Before, if a park was missing a sign, or if it had been vandalized or removed without our knowledge, and the sheriffs would come in and say, you know, you really need signage that says you can't drink in the park, and they can't do this, or they can't do that. So the purpose of putting new signs very visibly in the front entry of each of our parks, and we'll put 2 up at Freedom, 1 on the back side and 1 on the front side, is to, again, be a visual reminder of what patrons can and can't do, but also gives law enforcement and private security the authorization to go ahead and enforce these ordinances. One topic that we've talked about at length, and Larry and I went from kind of one end of the spectrum to the other in regards to use of alcohol in our parks. Currently, we do allow the use of alcohol in district parks. That's different at Ridge Point and the Futures campus because those are school district facilities, and Twin Rivers has a strict policy of no alcohol in the parks. So, focus on our own parks. We do have a prohibition of glass containers in the parks for safety reasons. If you go through the policy manual, you will not see one thing mentioned about alcohol in park facilities. We tightly regulate it in our indoor facilities for rentals, events, by requiring extra insurance, by requiring paid security. So we do a good job of regulating the use of alcohol for rentals and things like that. But really, it's just kind of, and asking some of my fellow staff here, how long has that been the case? I don't know, as long as I can remember. So what we want to do is have a discussion about use of alcohol in the park. And like I said, we've gone from one end of the spectrum where what we currently have is we allow it, but it can't be in a glass container. To the other end of the spectrum is we're going to ban alcohol in all of our parks. Obviously, that requires board discussion and board action. So what we've come up with, maybe you could consider it a short-term solution or short-term address of this particular topic, is the wording, you'll see it on the draft of the signage, that alcohol is allowed by permit only. When a mom comes in to rent a park, rent Freedom Park for her child's birthday, or a family wants to do a picnic or a family reunion, part of the online registration, one of the questions is, will you have alcohol at your event? And a lot of them say, wow, we didn't know we could. And we say, yeah, you can, but you can't have less. And so it could be considered that in itself is allowing alcohol use by permit. We want to get a little bit more, a little more direct on that. On occasion, we will rent Freedom Park out for special events. We have one coming up where a local nonprofit is renting the entire park for a school picnic day type thing. Obviously, they don't have alcohol, but special events do happen in Freedom Park. The allowing alcohol by permit only will allow staff the flexibility that if a service club wanted to come in and run an event that had alcohol as part of what they were doing, we could plan for that. We could protect ourselves with security and with liability insurance and those type of things. So what we're proposing then is, as I indicated in here, if you do a survey of our local counterparts, both City Rec and Park and Special District Rec and Park, by the way, my math's a little off on that one paragraph, I apologize for that. Some cities and special districts absolutely flat out don't allow alcohol in their districts or in their city parks. Others allow it, quite a few allow it by permit, and it really varies greatly from what that means. A big district like Casumnas down in Elk Grove says you can have alcohol in the park, you just can't sell it.
You can't, trade tickets for beer or anything like that. City of Roseville puts on their signage, Roseville City Parks are alcohol-free, smoking-free. So there's a wide variety of the way the area, districts and City Rec and Park approach this report, or this situation. So, that being said, the park signage itself is the first step. We do have a draft that's ready to go to production with a local graphic artist. So we're looking to see if you would approve the park signage as presented. There's one or two little typos on there that have to be fixed. We'd like you to consider a policy addition that allows use of alcohol by permit only. But we'd like to push the implementation back to the end of the year. We currently have picnic patrons that have rented facilities well into the summer at Freedom Park that have indicated they're going to have alcohol. We take reservations through the end of October. This would allow not only those folks to be able to conduct their events, but also would allow staff the opportunity to begin to implement notification and enforcement of the permit only policy of alcohol in parks. And that's it. The fiscal financial impact. The signs will go for about 105 a piece. We're going to buy 14 of them, so like I said, roughly around $1,300, or excuse me, 12 we're going to buy. So we certainly have that much of the budget that we can allocate for signs right now, and get them up in the parks as soon as they're done.
If I could just weigh in on just a little bit on that, the issue of alcohol is always a big issue. And in fact, the last three agencies I worked at before I came here, they banned alcohol in the parks with one exception. That was the city of Napa, which just happens because there's wine everywhere. But we crafted a policy there that they have to use plastic stuff, and they had to have designated areas. And I bring that to your attention because we do regulate quite highly the use of alcohol in a building, which is more in a controlled environment, and also anytime we have that, it requires a security. So it seems kind of strange then to just let it happen without any regulations in your park system, which have no boundaries and walls and those types of things. So one of the reasons Scott and I talked about pushing it out, besides the fact it's not a good thing to go back after people have rented a facility, come back and say, oh, by the way, we changed the rules. But also to give us time to come back because we need to tie that permit piece into a district policy. And I think that that's something that will require probably more than one board meeting. And to be honest with you, I think this is one that we probably want to get out to the public a little bit and get some feedback on, and that might end up being a public hearing so we can get feedback from the community on it. I wouldn't be surprised if the vast majority is probably anti-alcohol, but you may have those that have it. And I think the key to it is by tying it into a permit and creating criteria for the permit, it allows the district to control it. So we're not saying no entirely, we're saying no, but there are going to be stipulations and conditions. But as Scott said, that's one piece of this park signage. This what we're bringing to the board tonight is really important because while we have park signs out there, not all of them have ordinances tied to them. And we've been told more than once by the county sheriff department, yeah, we can go out there and we can push them off, we can get them to stop doing things, but our hands are tied unless you have an ordinance tied to it. We can't cite them for it because you can't cite them without an ordinance. And the district attorney's going to kick it out because if there's no ordinance, they're not going to bother their time with it. So anyway, the main issue today is adoption of the signs. And then we have some time to come back to the board with a policy regarding alcohol.
That's it. Couple quick questions on that. So right now, I can go to Freedom Park with a can of beer.
Yes, you go to any district park.
I never knew that.
Yeah, don't broadcast it though, okay?
No, I won't. I
We have some regulars out there that they show you where the proper sitting areas are to have your beer.
Yeah.
So the other thing is the permit. So I take it that you've already got some rough draft or draft of the permit, and who says yay or nay or what?
No, I would not issue a permit until we have a policy in place. But we don't want to come back and review the signs again. I'm assuming that we're going to have you don't want to completely close it off. There might be a business in town that wants to do something that involves alcohol on a small scale, or something very controlled.
Right.
And part of the criteria might be, okay, you need to have a security guard there to make sure kids aren't there, and you're doing it, you've seen beer gardens before. That's how we got away with it in Napa. We created designated areas that could happen. But we don't want to come back and change the signs, but we think that it's important that we have a policy. And to be honest with you, I think that we need to take a look at the alcohol use policy in our buildings too. It's time to kind of bring things up in the 21st century here.
No, wait a minute, we passed the updated one about 15 years ago. That was the 21st century. Because this has come up a number of times, so.
Yeah, it's when Scott came back with the survey of the special districts in the cities, I don't want to say it's all over the map, but I would say the vast majority seem to be no alcohol or alcohol by permit only. Everything comes down to enforcement, Pedro. Your enforcement is only as good as, your policy rules are only as good as the ability to enforce it.
Sure.
But that one, because especially the special nature of Freedom Park, which has been an attraction for people who like to sit down with their back against the wall or a picnic table and drink, it'd be an advantage to our district to be able to control that.
I agree. I totally agree.
As I-
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, as I indicated in my report as well, and I think Mark can probably back this up, we get very rare complaints about picnic patrons that get to pay their money and get the reserve the site and maybe bring a cooler full of cans for a social event. We don't get any complaints about those, but when we hear about it, when someone strolls in the park with their kids to play on the play structure, and there's an individual sprawled out against the bathroom wall with a 40 in a bag. I'm not trying to stigmatize or discriminate, but that's the look we want to get away from.
Right.
And if moving in this direction allows us to do so, by still having the flexibility to plan for future events, then that's the direction we have to go.
So we'll come back to you, and if you adopt if you do or do not adopt the sign tonight, we still are coming back to you with probably towards the end of the summer with a policy, and then we're going to have to go through that process of certainly notifying the public. We would I'd like to come back before the end of October when people are still renting the park. So it'd be good to be able to post it out there that we're having this discussion, so those people who actually use these facilities might be able to come back and weigh in on some ideas. They might have a better idea than we have. So tonight for you is just the sign. The alcohol policy will come back at a later time.
Okay, do you have any more questions?
Yeah, throw my hands up.
Okay. Unless you're wanting to make a motion.
No.
Okay.
No, I just want to say it looks great. And when I first saw this, it's like, you got Sacramento County Code, right? All right.
Yeah, SEC.
I saw that, and it's like perfect. The only other question I'd have is the very bottom. It says all other applicable county ordinances. Are there any other state laws that would pertain to this, or is this pretty much county ordinances?
I'm sorry.
I would say our parks, because of the nature of being a special district, fall under the county.
Okay.
I'm sure there are some, well, let me give you an example.
It's pretty much. I mean,
state
obviously,
is-
it's pretty much county ordinances.
State regulations are more often than not adopted by counties and cities. In this case, they filter down to us. An example would be 15 years or so ago when they banned smoking in parks. First, they banned it by playground equipment. Then they banned it in the parks. Well, that state law then filtered down to counties and cities. And so while it was initially a state law, it is now a county law that, it would fall under that jurisdiction.
Okay, that was the only thing that, other than that caught my eye. I saw one of the little typos. I was going to note to Scott that he's probably already seen.
Alan, you wouldn't believe how many, when we looked at other agencies and their signs, and when we got the list from the Sacramento County, was it 2.5 pages or something?
Oh,
Got more than that. I mean, there are literally hundreds of them. But at some point, you put so much stuff out
Right,
there.
nobody's gonna read it.
Nobody's gonna read it.
Yeah, I know.
And we figured, these are the things that we're most likely going to experience in our park.
Yeah.
You can't cover it all,
No.
but it's good to have an ordinance tied to your policy, your rule, so that way, again, if we get, as Scott said, some guy standing out drinking a 40, not only does he push him out of the park, he can actually issue him a citation if he wanted to.
Pretty embarrassing, I'm really excited.
The only other question I have, Scott, is, I mean, you said the size of the sign. It's gonna be metal sign?
Metal sign on a metal post.
Okay.
Similar to the little parking placards we have out there, but bigger.
Okay, I'm just worried, of course, vandalism.
They will get vandalized.
Yeah.
They get spray painted
I
and
mean,
clean them up.
is there any type, just for like, is there any kind of coating we can put on it for like spray paint will
We
come off?
could get plexiglass and screw plexiglass bolts in over the top of it, so that way when they damage the sign, they could be carving or something, and they're doing it in the plex. I apologize, I didn't mention that to Scott. We can put, our guys can do it. We can go out and get sheets of plexiglass and cut them out and mount them on the top.
Right.
Just bolts in the corner,
Right.
and that way if they vandalize it, we take that off and
Put a
put a
new
new one
one
on there.
yeah.
And it's probably a good idea to have some extra. We'll get some extra ones after the.
Right,
the-
that would be my only concern is, we're gonna put a sign up, but they're gonna torch the sign, they're gonna paint over the sign or something like that, and then we have no sign.
Well, eventually, I'd like to see a kiosk at that particular park and a kiosk out in the middle of here.
Right.
So, things that are behind glass, that we can not only, instead of Terry having to put every notice we have on a window, we use the kiosk, and we can also, that way allows the community groups too, who want to
Right.
notice us, because they'll come in here and they'll take up all our limited counter space.
Right.
And I think, those things, they attract people,
Oh, they do.
so they can read about what's, you can put an activity guide in there
Right.
and cut it
All
over
the
4 or 5
different
pages,
pages,
and we got it in there.
And we have several kiosks at Freedom now for the picnic sets.
Right.
And adding 1 or 2 for park signage would be.
Oh, I'm talking about
Big one.
a substantial
A
structure.
big one like you would see at a university.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that I think Freedom Park is ripe for something like that. One, it also helps us advertise our
Oh,
program.
absolutely.
We get a lot of people renting,
They're
families
gonna,
renting
they're
stuff.
gonna go up and read it, and you can put the
There you
brochure
go.
there, and then Mark would be busy, and then he can take credit for the increase in,
Yeah.
creation.
You guys see how it all works?
Or Mark.
Or Mark.
And I think one out here would be, would serve.
No, yeah, I agree. So Terry, how come you didn't put that in the budget for the big,
Somebody told me about it.
okay. So-
We can change the.
Maybe
we
in
can
front
change
of
the
the
budget.
final.
Possibly. we'll see.
Yeah, it's just.
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to approve the draft.
I'll second that.
Is there any questions or further discussion?
Can I amend my motion?
So I got one question. I mean, if we're gonna approve the signage, so we have to change it since we're gonna come back to the alcohol?
That's why I was gonna amend my
Yeah.
motion. Thank you. That we'll come back and at a later meeting to adopt the policy for alcohol only. Maybe you accept that change, Pedro? Because you seconded it.
Yes, I would definitely.
Okay.
Okay, any questions or further discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Change that.
Okay, now item 10E, board review of bid proposals for the new district vehicles. So, this evening, we received the bid proposal for the new truck that staff is requesting. So,
I have a question.
yeah, go ahead. Is
Okay.
anyone
No,
have questions?
So, I noticed who the cheapest one is. Is that because they're the ones that have the state of California contract, you think, or?
Let me give you a little bit of background.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the policy manual tonight, and it's really illuminating to actually sit down and read these policies about how you're supposed to do it. So what we did, the budget was approved, last year this time, and we put 20 grand in to buy a truck. Our fleet is, for the most part, aging and breaking down. We spend a lot of money on maintenance, so a new vehicle will help. So we put it out to bid to local Ford dealerships, and, you know, the three that you see are the ones that actually sent bids back in, or quotes back in. We also put a notice in the B to meet the board policy, and that's why we're bringing it to you for your approval, because that's also part of the policy manual. Downtown Ford, I think, all three of them include some sort of state discount pricing. We are exempt, DMV exempt with our vehicles, and that lowers the price down. As Larry was telling me the other day, and we were kind of kicking this around as well. They're all basically trying to sell the same truck. It's a matter of how much they need to take on their end to make it a profitable sale. I think part of the reason Downtown Ford is less expensive down is they actually have the truck on the lot. So it's ready for delivery. Whereas the others will probably have to either search one down in Southern California or special order it. But yeah, they all include some form of discount pricing based on our Ford fleet relationship, and we tend to buy Ford vehicles. So yeah, it would be, not only related to the lowest bidder, but the sales rep I've been working with said, we don't have to wait for a check. You can give us a purchase order and then put your check request in, and you drive the vehicle away.
So we get $500 discount if they get the check.
That's what he put on it.
That's what he put down there.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to accept the bid by Downtown Ford at $23,902.
I'll second that.
Is there any questions or further discussion? All those in favor? Motion passes.
Thanks, Scott. You're welcome.
Okay, item 11, payment of the bills. Okay, this is your opportunity to ask questions or get clarification on the bills.
We're running out of money, it's the end of the year.
Just spent 25.
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of the bills.
I'll second it.
Are there any questions or further discussion? Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay. The next meeting of the Board of Directors will be July 13, 2017 at 6:30 p.m. in the Highlands Rec Center, 6040 Watt Avenue,